All right, my good friends, this is Mr. Davis. This is Thursday evening. I'm posting this for Friday. So basically, just before we get started, what Friday's assignment is going to be due Monday because we got to get rocking and rolling. I want to see how you can do on this. We're going to write an essay for Friday. You can do it over the weekend. But it's going to be about Unit 3. Okay, so that's just get that up front. We're going to write a DBQ, which is what you're going to be asked to do on the test. So this week we had like 2 or 3, I guess we had 3 straight nights of like writing an opening paragraph, one on the Silk Road, the next one on the Mongols, and the next one was on the Indian Ocean. And then I gave you a break yesterday. And then, so tonight and over the weekend, we're writing a DBQ. The key is, though, it's 45 minutes. So don't act like you have to spend the whole entire weekend researching your DBQ. I'm not looking for you to blow my socks off on this DBQ. I'm not looking for you to like scour the internet, read all your textbooks, and spend like 6 hours, because that would defeat the purpose. I'm expecting when you get the DBQ documents to just do a trial run of the AP test. Put a timer, so it's 7:13 here. So when you started, look, 7:13, I got till about 8 o'clock to do this DBQ. So I'm expecting it to be pretty bad. What I would like you to do is read the Unit 3 recap, which is on the Units 1 through 3 recap, and look over this PowerPoint here. So this PowerPoint is about 26 slides or so, really 25 when you break it all down. But do that, because I'm not going to go through all of Unit 3's info. So you have this at your disposal. So what I would recommend you doing is reading those 2 things, the Unit 3 impact or recap, and then reading this Davis Unit 3 review, all of which are in the AP exam folder on Google Drive. And then also what I did today, see if I can bring it up, because I said that I want you to have these. I'm going to go to open here. I made a spice chart. It's not the one that I wanted. Spice chart somewhere. I made a spice chart of Unit 2. See if this will come up for us. All right, so I made this for you guys. The first time we were doing spice chart, I gave you like one unit, like Dar al-Islam. You made a spice chart on Dar al-Islam. But what I did here is I just gave you one spice chart for Unit 2. And like I said before, you would have a spice chart for every unit we talk about. So like, because the AP exam is at home and you're allowed to, they say it's an open note, so you can look at your notes. And this could just be a note for you. So if you got something about Trade Network, if you go back here, you can see I got context stuff. I got, different facts that went in the spice charts. Now, I did this, and I don't expect you to like scour over a spice chart while you're writing your essay. But if you get like something about something like networks of exchange was Unit 2, and you're thinking, I remember that we said something about, what did the Russians call what did the Mongols call the Russians? And it would be Tartars or something like that. And I even included down here a link of outside evidence that you could use in your essay. So I'll try to do this each unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They have a big spice chart that you can have up or you can print out. And then at the bottom, I can have some random facts that you can use for outside evidence. And now, again, this is not so that you can cheat. It's so that you know what the rules are of the test. We know what they're looking for. Can we be efficient and have stuff ready to go? And these facts that I put down here about the trade networks can be manipulated to go into any essay, even if like Marco Polo's journey. You could include it maybe even about like if it's something about religion. You could talk about how he was a religion and no Christian had ever gone there, and he comes back and tells the Christian Europeans what was going on over with the Mongol ruled China. So I just want to let you know that you have those. I'm just going to move that in case I think that's already in there. So yeah, so it's in the AP exam review. So in this AP exam review file. All right, so basically what I want to do tonight, I don't want to go over this slideshow much at all because that's kind of your responsibility. You have to look at this PowerPoint. You have to read the recap. So it's Unit 3 review. This unit is called Land-Based Empires. That's what it's called, Land-Based Empires Expand. So they'll basically look at, if you get an essay about Unit 3, Land-Based Empires, they're going to talk about one of three things. How do these empires expand? Basically, like how do they conquer? How do they gain their territory? How did they legitimize their rule? Meaning, like, how did the leaders of these empires get people to believe that they were the right people to be ruling? Like, how did they keep everybody not necessarily happy all the time, but how do they keep an empire from falling apart? And how do they consolidate their rule? Like, basically what happens like when they take over conquered territory? Like, did they allow religious freedom, or did they execute everybody that they conquered? The big change from units 1 and 2 to now unit 3 is now we've moved from 1450 to 1750. So that's the 1450 is a big context year. There's a big change here. So now what we're seeing is that technology is changing the way that people get around the world. And I often said, like, the world is getting smaller, not literally, but figuratively. And in 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue, proving that Europeans can cross the Atlantic and discovering new territories, which is, this just is a big jump off point. Like, where the 1200s and 1300s, people are trading with one another, religion is spreading, but like this time, we really go global, because during this time period, everybody will find out about everybody. The Americas are discovered in some ways, like the Europeans are discovered by the Amerindians. Okay, so this is a big year, and there's a lot of context in here about the technological advancements. Do not say that Christopher Columbus was discovered that the world was round. Okay, so that is not correct. This is an incorrect kind of belief system given to Columbus, but the Europeans and other sailors knew the world was round. They just didn't know it was as big as it was. The Far Morrow map, I think it was like 1452. That was the map we looked at in class, and it showed the world. They used to make and if I do a puzzle, I'll put the map in there. They used to make the maps upside down, and you saw they knew the world was round. They just didn't know that the Americas existed. So it goes from 1450 to 1750. Another big year in here is going to be like 1453. Mehmed the Conqueror conquered Constantinople with the Constantine gun, I believe it was, that blew up Constantinople city walls. So the three topics of this unit is: how did they expand? How did they rule? What did they believe in? What did these empires believe in? So mainly for what we're talking about is called the gunpowder empires. But sprinkled in here, this is where you don't have to remember every little kingdom, like the Songhai Empire. I shouldn't say little in Africa, or like the Russian kingdom. Sorry, here, let me go back. So you don't have to remember every kingdom. It's just like you'll get a source, and it might be from the Songhai Emperor. And if it's talking about empire building, you should be able to write about it, even if you don't know like specific facts about the Songhai Empire. But you do know specific facts about the Ottomans. This right here is the Safavids with Abbas the Great. You'll learn it's all in the readings. This is the Mughals, where you had Muslims ruling over Hindus. This is here at this point. This is a Manchu Empire, but the Qing, was the group that kicked out the Yuan, the Mongols. But it takes the Qing falls to Ming, or I'm sorry, I apologize. The Ming kick out the Yuan, and then after that, the people from Manchuria come down and conquer Beijing, and then they spread it. They're a land-based empire. China and Russia are total land-based empires. Russia goes to their east, China moves to their west. Okay, so this is what we call land-based empires. Unit 4 is about maritime empires. But within Unit 3, they will make mention of how France ruled France and how England ruled England, how Russia ruled Russia. But we don't really get picking up with these other Europeans until they go sailing. But we do talk about how they've ruled. So you'll see a European source in here a couple times in this DBQ. But here's the Ottomans. Here's the Safavids. Here's the Mughals. There were gunpowder. Gunpowder came across the Silk Road and is utilized extensively. So they expand with weaponry and they expand with technology. And you're going to see religion plays a big part. The Ottomans, this is a crescent moon and star. That's a Islamic symbol. The Ottomans are Sunni. The Safavids are Shiites or Shias. This explains a constant rivalry between the two. Here is Constantinople. Today it's called Istanbul. And you see the red. That shows you how, this is kind of the end of Europe and the beginning of Asia. You see how much the Ottomans got into Europe, and we read a lot about the Ottomans and how impressive they were, and you rose up the ranks in the Ottomans by your merit and not your last name, and how organized the army was and how much food they would bring with them. So the Ottomans made it all the way up to Austria in Europe. They also took over North Africa. This is where, the sick man of Europe, when they're falling apart, Egypt is still part of the Ottoman Empire, but they will be taken away. But they're also called the Sword of Islam because they protect, the Ottomans protect Jerusalem, Mecca, and Medina. Beijing, and even though China is not really religious, Confucianism is not a religion. That's why it leaves a space for Buddhism to take shape in China, Mahana Buddhism. But one religious term that they do use, and you can use when you talk about this time period, is legitimizing their rule. The emperors would say they had the quote-unquote mandate of heaven, meaning that the gods chose them to be their rulers. And this was a double-edged sword, because if things were going good, if the harvests were good, if the population was growing, people had food in their belly, the gods looked favorably on that empire. If there was droughts, famines, if there was Mongol type of invaders coming into China and killing people, then those rulers were seen to have lost the mandate of heaven, and that's when civil war would break out, and that's when empires change from the Qing to the Ming to the whatever. So that even though the Chinese weren't religious, they often use the term mandate of heaven. And Japan is a land-based empire. They're an isolationist territory. They're not allowing anybody in at this point. They're run by shoguns, etc. So what you should do before you start any essay on Unit 3, you should go through all these slides and then just pick up on things. Talks about East Asia. Now, the thing about this, you don't have to remember every black term here, bolded term. You have to get gist of what is going on. So when you see Emperor Qianlong here in 1736, if you see a source from him, and you see the time period, you know that that's during China's kind of land-based empire time period. But you don't have to remember every single thing. This is what I would call outside evidence. Okay, the writing the DBQ is more of a skill where your total knowledge comes in for context, and it comes in for outside evidence. Okay, so just read this before you go over before you start your DBQ. Okay, so it goes through all the topics of Unit 3. So this is not a terribly long explanation. I just want to go over this, which you have somewhere. DBQ rubric. All right, so you have this DBQ rubric, and you can bring it up. So what we worked on this week is getting the context point and getting the thesis point. And reading over a lot of your Google form submissions, a lot of us would be coming out of the first paragraph with 2 points, which is awesome. You'd be firing with gas. Now, we want you to get to at least a 6 out of 10. There is a possible 5 points within the documents that you can get points on, and another 2 points with outside evidence. The complexity point, that was your unicorn point. That is something that we don't really need to worry about. I'm not even going to talk about the complexity point, because you get the complexity point if you did a great job writing your whole essay. It's not really a skill, something that you can teach, I guess. So what I want to be focusing on today, you're going to get 5 documents on your DBQ. It says not 7, it's 5. One of them is going to be a picture. The other 4 are going to be text. You're going to have who wrote it, the time period. It'll be pretty descriptive. You should be able to read it and know what's going on. You get a point if you describe the content of at least 2 documents. You get 1 point. But what I would have you do is I would have you write about all 5 documents, okay? And because you might analyze one incorrectly. So you get 1 point if you tie 2 documents to your thesis statement. And what I mean by that is if you read the document and you say, okay, this piece of evidence, this document supports my thesis statement, and you explain how that document supports your thesis statement, you get 1 point for doing that. You get 2 points if you do that for 4 of the 5 documents. So basically, if you just write 1 paragraph about each document and you say what you can do, and I'll include it in kind of my tip sheet, you can kind of briefly say what's going on, write about the document, and then one of your sentences, you can start out with the word therefore, comma. Okay, so like if you go back to my social distancing example, if I said, if it was like a document from the Center of Disease Control, where if it was talking about being in public and how far sneezes travel, and it was an article about sneeze travel, and I wrote about the document, and then I said, therefore, because sneezes can travel up to 10 feet, comma, I think it is essential that we continue this social distancing thing that we're going on. That was my thesis statement from the other night. So that's how I use it to argue. So basically, with 4 documents, what I would do if I was writing your DBQ, I would take each document and make it a paragraph where you kind of tell us what's in the document, and then say, therefore, comma, why that document helps you. Okay, do that 4 times. And remember, I think it was Kenzie that did a really good job, and we used her example. Kenzie wrote about something about the Industrial Revolution. And we talked about there's going to be a document that documents will fall into 2 groups. Basically, they're going to support your thesis or they're not going to support your thesis. So when you describe a document that does not support your thesis, okay, so my example, I might bring up a Wall Street Journal document that says the economy is crashing because of social distancing. We need to end the economy because if we don't end this social distancing, that everybody's going to be broke. Okay, so it's worse than the actual the economy crashing is worse than the coronavirus. What I would do there, if it was a document that disputes my thesis, I would say the Wall Street Journal states that 25 million Americans are now out of work. Okay, so and I'd summarize it maybe in one more sentence, and I say then this is how I would use that document to kind of argue my thesis. I say, although, comma, the economic burden is very tough on the country, the economic burden does not outweigh the deadly risk it poses to a great percentage of our population. Hopefully you see what I'm doing there, and maybe I'll add something when I do it, make this into an ed puzzle. But if you do that 4 times with 4 documents, you're going to get 2 points for talking about 4 documents. Okay, you're already going to get the 1 point up here. You're going to get this first point no matter what by just talking about 2 documents. So if you can correctly use 4 documents to support your thesis, okay, you are going to have the first 3 points out of 5. So really at that point, you got the context point, you got the thesis point, you talked about 2 documents, that's point 3, and then you use 4 documents and you argued with 4 of the documents. Now you're at a 5, okay? So you haven't lost any points yet, which would be good. So the big key when you're looking at documents is you want to argue with the documents. You want to explain them, but you don't need to write them word for word. You just explain the documents. Okay, and then you get the last 2 points in here by you get 1 point if you hip 1 document. You get 2 points if you hip 2 documents. So my strategy for you would be every time you write about a document, if you have this is also something I'm going to share with you tonight. Okay, so you can use this chart as you're writing. You can kind of jot things down if you like. I think I did this in a future ed puzzle, but or a previous ed puzzle. I'm trying to go fast, believe me. So I just said this was the Zhang Ha hip. It was his last voyage. People are coming to see his monument. The point of view of the maker of the monument was that Zhang Ha was amazing at sailing. The purpose was to show how impressive the Ming were. Okay, so if you do that, get back up here. Okay, if you can hip 2 documents, then you get another 2 points. So all of a sudden, you are at a 7 points right now. The outside evidence, we won't go over that too much, but that's just, you're just bringing in 2 things that the documents didn't give you, but are relevant to the prompt. Now, your outside evidence can't be like something else that was going on in 1450 that has no bearing on your thesis statement. So like if my thing was about if social distancing was my topic, and social distancing started March 13th, 2020. If I said also March 13th, 2020, the Kentucky License Drivers Bureau decided that they were no longer going to offer black license plates. Okay, that wouldn't be outside evidence that would have anything to do with that. So your outside evidence has to deal with the topic at hand, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to end this here, and then within a document, I'm going to tell you how to highlight certain things when you write your essay. But one thing I do want you to do, so I'm going to give you a Unit 3 DBQ. It's going to be like this. It's going to be a Word document. you only have to really focus on this thing. That's what the prompt is going to be. Evaluate the extent to which rulers use a variety of methods to legitimize and consolidate their power. In 1415 to 1750. Okay, so that's going to be the prompt. What I would do if I were you, a few things. I would have probably have the this open if you just want to refer to it. I would have your recap open as well. And then I'm giving you a DBQ chart. This might be helpful. I haven't really gone over this yet, but you can look over. This is just like a note-taking thing that you could do. What I would do is print this out and physically write things down because it's really fast to scribble things onto a document. So basically what this is just a place for you to kind of organize your documents. But I would time yourself 45 minutes. And as long as you turn something in, you're going to get 100% on this. You like made an attempt to write an essay. I'm not going to be grading you whether your facts are correct or not. I'm going to be grading you that you turned it in, you made an effort. And we want to get used to this 45 minutes because 45 minutes is a lot different than an hour. Okay. So I would say you're going to get 5 documents. Here are the documents right here. Okay. So text, not too long, Taj Mahal. Okay. So those are the 5 documents. I would say read the prompts, read the documents, come up with your thesis. And if you could have a thesis statement done within 12 to 13 minutes, that would give you 32 to 33 minutes to write your essay. Okay. If the timer runs out and say you didn't get to a conclusion, you don't really get a point for it. You don't have to have a conclusion. Like you can just, it ends and you're in the middle of a topic. What doesn't matter because how the graders grade, they just say, did you have a context? Check. Did you have a thesis? Check. Did you talk about 4 documents? Check, 2 points. Did you hit 2 documents? Check, 2 more points. They don't say, oh, that person didn't get to the conclusion. That doesn't count. So you don't even really have to have a conclusion. Your essay can end with not even a period at the sentence. It's not going to matter. You're just trying to get these points. So even if some people say, don't even worry about a conclusion. Your arguing does it for you. But I will stop there, and I will try to put more things in the instructions. So basically, what you're doing by Monday at 9 o'clock is you're writing a DBQ on topic 3, land-based empires. Okay, so I will stop that here.